So these are the OG tech, the original technology, some old school, archaic, a prehistoric technology for a lot of kids right now that have no idea what these are. These was the kind of technology, music technology I had growing up as a kid. Now, a lot of this technology is the basis, actually, of a lot of toys back in the 80s. One of them was Generation 1 Transformers Soundwave. He transformed into this cassette tape player recorder. I think it's a recorder. And a lot of kids nowadays, have my kids certainly have no idea what these things are because they're so into the digital age. But back in the day, in the 80s, 90s, it was all analog. Digital was something quite new. And Soundwave was an analog player. Now, essentially, it's a cassette player. If you'd watched my collection video of Soundwave, I posed the question what this thing and this thing are doing together. This is essentially how music was recorded in the 80s. It's a magnetic cassette tape. It's a spool of magnetic tape. You can record on one side and record on the other side. You can play it back using any of these devices. I'll show that off later, but I wanted to answer what this pencil was doing with this thing. And if you grew up in the 80s, you'll know that this was how we rewound things, using the hexagon shaped pencil. And that's how we did it. You would fast forward or rewind back in the day using the pencil. So if you knew about this, then I guess you know how old I am, and you're probably older than me or about the same age as I am. So let's start with this boom box. Essentially what it is it has a radio, and it has two kinds of players. It has this is the digital component, which plays a CD. I'm sure, kids would still remember what this is, although my kids don't know what this is anymore. You'd play that, you'd pop that disc. It's a digitally encoded piece of plastic that has this is metallic aluminum oxide on it, and then you'd play it, and then you'd play it. And see if I can just plug it in very quickly. And it's not working. Oh, power. There we go. CD. And there you go. That's how we would play. The first track is, what is this? This is Mozart. It's classical. No, it's royalty free. I don't think I'll get in trouble with anything. Play. Is it on? And there you go. That's how music was played back then. Turn it off, 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 and then you pop it off and you'll see the CD. That's the digital age. Back in the 90s, that was a thing, and that was our digital thing. And if you wanted to play analog, this cassette tape, how do you do this? Oh, okay. You'd have a tape deck, and there would be like a head. I don't know if you can see it right there. That is the reader. That head would read whatever was encoded here as music, and you could literally just pop the cassette in, and then you could, I guess, play it. And tape. I guess there's nothing on the tape, so nothing. Anyway, but that was the general idea of how you played a cassette tape. Now, portability of music was a thing back in the day, and we had these things. This was what we call a Walkman. Sony made history with one of the first portable music players, and this was a device. Like I said, you had music right here, and this was my very first Walkman. It was cutting edge technology back then. Oh my goodness, look at the degradation. And that's the reader, that's the head I was talking about. You'd pop this thing in, close it up, and then this was a very cool model. It was the top of the line back when I was a kid. Everyone was so amazed with it. Slide this thing down and you'd have the radio on, fast forward. It was all push button. There was no mechanical buttons. It was all automated. It had mega bass, really. And then it was powered by, oh my goodness, AA batteries. Yeah, and volume control here. The headphones would be plugged in here. This was cutting edge back in the day because it didn't have the typical jack earphones like this one. It had this one, remote control. You could literally control it without pressing on the buttons. That was cutting edge back then. And this was my second one. It was a more simpler one, very analog, because it had a recorder. I wanted to get this one much like Soundwave. This is probably the counterpart, a later version of the recorder, and then you would record it this way. You'd press this, put the cassette in, and then you would record this way, and then stop, and then play back. Fortunately, this thing doesn't work anymore. Recorders also came in all sorts of shapes and sizes. They had this micro cassette. This was actually pretty cool. The cassettes were pretty small. You pop it in, press this, and it would record. And then you could actually listen to it. And then you could forward. So very cool. This would come in handy when you were doing an interview with somebody. You know, back then we didn't have video phones. This was technology. It was powered by AA batteries. And then finally, last two things. This is a portable version of the CD player. You could, I think this could also play movies. Yep, a Class 1 laser product. This actually allowed you to play music and movies at the same time. And back in the day, this was your portable device. You know, we didn't have those smartphones. And then bonus points for somebody who can answer what this is. I have no way of demonstrating it, but this was a way to store data back in the day, and this is what we called a floppy disk. Oh, it's still sealed. It's still mint in case. This is a floppy disk. You would insert this, you would slide that, and there would be a very thin metallic disc inside. You would put it in a computer. Back then, computers had this, and it would read data. So this is a way to store data and information. Back in the 90s, it was called a floppy disk. This was a 3.5 inch floppy disk. The original floppy disks were much bigger, 5 inches. They were really disks. They were called diskettes, and you would store data from them. And back then, when I was in high school, this was homework. You know, we saved homework here, and if the power had run out, there was a blackout, you were toast. You wouldn't be able to, if you weren't able to save data, you'd be screwed. So there you go, folks. This was the kind of technology I grew up with, and where Soundwave, the Generation 1 Soundwave, was loosely based off of. Lots of memories with these things, and very nostalgic. I've never had the heart to really throw these things away because of all the memories that I had with them. They're basically junk. Nobody uses these things anymore, but they're pretty special to me. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for taking the time to go with me down memory lane. And let me know what you think of these devices. Did you recognize any of them? Are these all like ancient artifacts to you? Hit me up in the comment section, and as always, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. If it's your first time here, please subscribe. If you want to help the channel out, please check out my Patreon account. There is a link in the description box below. Thanks for watching.